Arthur shuffled through the grand, echoing halls of the Oakwood Ping Pong Club, his worn-out shoes squeaking softly on the polished wooden floors. He was a ghost in this place, a silent observer amidst the flurry of activity and the sharp, rhythmic thwack of ping-pong balls. He was the janitor, Arthur Pennyworth, and at 52 years old, he felt every one of those years, especially when he was pushing the heavy cleaning cart up the slight incline between the championship room and the members' lounge. The Oakwood Ping Pong Club was more than just a building, it was a monument to the sport. Gleaming trophies lined glass cabinets, portraits of legendary players adorned the walls, and the air hummed with an almost palpable sense of competition. Arthur knew every nook and cranny of the club, every scratch on the tables, every faded photograph in the hallway. He'd been cleaning there for 15 years, a silent fixture in the background. The members, mostly wealthy and privileged, barely noticed him. They were too engrossed in their games, their strategies, their rivalries. To them, he was just the invisible man who emptied the trash cans and mopped up the sweat. He was the guy who kept the place running, but never participated in the fun. Arthur didn't mind, not really. He understood his place. He was a working man, a provider. He had a small apartment, a comfortable routine, and a quiet life. He found a certain peace in the solitude of his work, in the rhythmic movements of cleaning, in the quiet hum of the building when everyone else had gone home. But beneath his quiet exterior, Arthur harbored a secret. A longing. A dream. He watched the members play, their quick reflexes, their strategic shots, their graceful movements. He envied their skill, their confidence, their joy. And he dreamed of playing too. He dreamed of feeling the thrill of the game, the satisfaction of a well-placed shot, the camaraderie of competition. He dreamed of holding a paddle in his own hand, not just pushing a mop. He dreamed of being more than just the janitor. That longing wasn't new. It had been simmering for years, ever since he first started working at the Oakwood Club. At first, it was just a casual curiosity. He'd pause for a moment, leaning on his mop, watching the players with a detached interest. But over time, that interest grew into something more. It became a fascination, an obsession even. He started studying the game, not just watching, but analyzing. He observed the different playing styles, the subtle nuances of each player's technique. He noticed how they held the paddle, how they moved their feet, how they anticipated their opponent's shots. He learned the jargon, topspin, backspin, sidespin, smash. He devoured books and articles about ping pong, learning about the history of the sport, the strategies, the famous players. He imagined himself out there on the court, paddle in hand, facing off against a worthy opponent. He pictured himself executing a perfect backhand, a lightning-fast smash, a deceptive drop shot. He fantasized about the roar of the crowd, the thrill of victory, the satisfaction of knowing he had given it his all. But these were just dreams, fantasies. He was a janitor, not a ping-pong player. He had no training, no experience, no equipment. And besides, he was too old. Ping-pong was a young person's game, a game of speed and agility. He was past his prime, his reflexes dulled, his body stiff. Yet, the dream persisted. It gnawed at him, a constant reminder of what he was missing. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was meant for something more, that he had a hidden talent waiting to be unleashed. Sometimes, late at night, after everyone had left and the club was quiet, he would sneak into the championship room. He would pick up one of the discarded paddles, the ones the members had thrown away because they were old or damaged. He would hold it in his hand, feeling the weight and the texture of the rubber. He would close his eyes and imagine himself playing, feeling the thrill of the game, the satisfaction of a well-placed shot. He would swing the paddle, practicing his form, his technique. He knew it was silly, childish even. But it was the only way he could get close to his dream. It was the only way he could feel alive. The squeak of his shoes was usually the only sound Arthur heard during his late-night cleaning shifts. But one Tuesday, as he was lost in his practice, the rhythmic thwack of the paddle against the ping-pong ball echoed a little too loudly. He was so focused on his footwork, trying to mimic the graceful movements he'd seen the club members perform, that he didn't hear the door creak open. "Well, well, well," a voice drawled. Arthur froze, paddle clattering to the floor. He turned to see two of the younger kitchen staff, Maria and David, leaning against the doorway, their arms crossed, smirks plastered on their faces. "Look what we have here," Maria said, stifling a giggle. "The cleaning man thinks he's a ping-pong star." David picked up the discarded paddle, examining it with mock seriousness. "Wow, Arthur, this thing is ancient. You're going to win the championship with this?" He burst out laughing. Arthur's face flushed red. He felt a wave of shame wash over him. He should have known better. He should have kept his dream to himself. Just practicing," he mumbled, his voice barely audible. "Trying to get some exercise." "Exercise?" Maria scoffed. "You look like you're swatting flies. Seriously, Arthur, you're too old for this. Leave the ping-pong to the pros." They continued to taunt him, mimicking his awkward stance and clumsy swings. Arthur stood there, humiliated, wishing he could disappear. He wanted to defend himself, to explain his passion, but the words caught in his throat. He was just the janitor. What did he know about ping-pong? Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Maria and David grew bored and wandered off, their laughter echoing down the hallway. Arthur was left alone, the silence amplifying his shame. He picked up the paddle, his hand trembling. The dream suddenly felt foolish, pathetic even. Maybe they were right. Maybe he was too old, too unskilled, too invisible. He considered giving up, abandoning his secret passion. But as he looked at the paddle in his hand, a spark of defiance flickered within him. He wouldn't let their mockery extinguish his dream. He would prove them wrong. He would show them that even a middle-aged janitor could be a ping-pong player. He gripped the paddle tighter, a newfound determination hardening his gaze. The practice would continue. The next night, Arthur almost didn't go back. The memory of Maria and David's laughter still stung. But as he pushed his cleaning cart through the silent hallways, he felt a familiar pull, a magnetic force drawing him towards the championship room. He couldn't let their words define him. He had a dream, and he wasn't going to let it go. This time, he was more cautious. He checked the hallways, listened for any sounds, made sure he was completely alone before venturing into the room. He picked up his paddle, the worn rubber strangely comforting in his hand. He started slowly, focusing on the basics. Footwork, grip, stance. He practiced his serves, trying to add spin and power. He worked on his backhand, trying to improve his accuracy. He remembered watching the club members, their fluid movements, their effortless grace. He tried to imitate them, but his body felt stiff and uncoordinated. But he didn't give up. He kept practicing, night after night, pushing himself harder each time. He watched videos online, studying the techniques of the pros. He experimented with different grips, trying to find one that felt comfortable and natural. He even started doing stretching exercises to improve his flexibility. He began to visualize success. He imagined himself playing in a tournament, facing off against skilled opponents. He pictured himself executing perfect shots, winning crucial points, feeling the thrill of victory. He imagined the look on Maria and David's faces when they saw him succeed. Slowly but surely, he started to improve. His movements became more fluid, his shots more accurate, his serves more powerful. He developed his own unique style, a combination of unorthodox techniques and surprising speed. He was still a long way from being a professional, but he was no longer just a janitor swatting flies. He was becoming a ping-pong player. He found himself looking forward to his late-night practices. They were no longer just a way to escape his reality, but a way to build a new one. He was transforming himself, one practice session at a time. The ridicule had initially caused him shame, but now it served as fuel, driving him to work harder, to prove himself, to achieve his dream. His quiet determination was becoming an unstoppable force. One afternoon, while cleaning the bulletin board in the members' lounge, a brightly colored flyer caught Arthur's eye. Local amateur ping-pong tournament, it proclaimed in bold letters. The tournament was being held at the community center just a few blocks from the Oakwood Club. The entry fee was a modest sum, and the grand prize was a shiny new ping-pong table and a year's supply of ping-pong balls. Arthur stared at the flyer, his heart pounding in his chest. This was it. This was his chance to finally put his skills to the test, to see if his late-night practices had actually paid off. He imagined himself competing, facing off against other players, feeling the adrenaline rush of the game. He even dared to dream of winning, of holding that shiny new ping-pong table high above his head. But then, doubt crept in. He was just a janitor. He had no experience playing in tournaments. He was probably out of his league. He imagined himself getting trounced, humiliated in front of everyone. He could almost hear Maria and David's laughter echoing in his ears. He hesitated, torn between his desire and his fear. He folded the flyer, tucked it into his pocket, and went back to his cleaning. But the image of the flyer kept flashing in his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had to do it. He had to take a chance. That night, he couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned in his bed, his mind racing. He weighed the pros and cons, the risks and the rewards. Finally, as the first rays of dawn peeked through his window, he made a decision. He would enter the tournament. The next day, during his lunch break, he walked to the community center and filled out the entry form. His hand trembled as he wrote his name, Arthur Pennyworth. He paid the entry fee, a significant amount for him, and received a confirmation slip. As he walked back to the Oakwood Club, clutching the slip in his hand, he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. He had taken the plunge. There was no turning back now. He was officially a participant in the local amateur ping-pong tournament. The real challenge was about to begin. The day of the tournament arrived, and Arthur felt a knot of nervousness in his stomach. He wore his best clothes, a slightly faded but clean button-down shirt and a pair of khakis. He clutched his trusty, well-worn paddle. As he entered the community center, the sounds of ping-pong balls colliding filled the air. He saw players of all ages and skill levels warming up, their faces focused and determined. He checked in at the registration table and received his bracket number. He was scheduled to play his first match in an hour. He found an empty table and started to warm up, practicing his serves and his backhand. He felt awkward and self-conscious, aware that everyone was watching him. His first opponent was a young man named Kevin, who looked like he was barely out of high school. Kevin had a sleek, modern paddle and a confident swagger. Arthur felt intimidated, but he reminded himself of all the hours he had spent practicing. He had come this far, and he wasn't going to back down now. The match began, and Arthur quickly realized that Kevin was a skilled player. He had a powerful serve and a lightning-fast forehand. But Arthur had a few tricks up his sleeve. His unorthodox grip, which he had developed through years of experimentation, allowed him to generate surprising amounts of spin. His unusual style, a combination of defensive shots and unexpected attacks, threw Kevin off balance. To everyone's surprise, including his own, Arthur won the first game. Kevin, visibly frustrated, tried to adjust his strategy, but Arthur stayed one step ahead of him. He won the second game as well, and then the third, securing a victory in his first ever tournament match. He couldn't believe it. He had actually won. A small crowd had gathered to watch, drawn in by Arthur's unusual style and the unexpected outcome. They applauded politely as he shook Kevin's hand. He went on to win his next two matches as well, defeating players who were younger, stronger, and more experienced than him. His opponents were baffled by his unorthodox techniques, his deceptive shots, and his unwavering determination. He was the underdog, the surprise of the tournament. The janitor who could play. The word started to spread. Arthur Pennyworth was making a name for himself. The Oakwood Ping Pong Club was a place where gossip traveled faster than a speeding ping pong ball. It wasn't long before whispers about the janitor who can play started circulating among the members. At first, it was just a rumor, a funny anecdote. Did you hear? Arthur, the janitor, is playing in the amateur tournament. Some members chuckled, dismissing it as a joke. Arthur? Playing ping pong? Don't be ridiculous. But as Arthur continued to win, the whispers grew louder, more persistent. I heard he beat Kevin in straight sets. Kevin, who's been taking lessons from Coach Henderson for years. Some members became curious. Really? Maybe we should go watch him play. It could be entertaining. Others remained skeptical, even dismissive. He's just getting lucky. It's an amateur tournament, after all. The competition isn't that great. Some members felt threatened. If a janitor can beat us, what does that say about our skills? Maria and David, who had initially mocked Arthur, were now spreading the word themselves, albeit with a different tone. Did you hear about Arthur? He's actually pretty good. I can't believe it. They still snickered, but there was a hint of admiration in their voices. The club manager, Mr. Harrison, a stern and pragmatic man, was intrigued. He had always seen Arthur as a reliable and hard-working employee, but he had never suspected that he had any hidden talents. He decided to investigate. As Arthur cleaned the trophy case one morning, Mr. Harrison approached him. Arthur, he said, his voice formal. I've heard some interesting things about your performance in the local ping pong tournament. Arthur's heart skipped a beat. He braced himself for criticism, for ridicule. Yes, sir, he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. I entered the tournament. Mr. Harrison paused, studying Arthur's face. I'm impressed, Arthur, he said finally. I had no idea you played. Perhaps you could show me some of your moves sometime. Arthur was stunned. He had expected to be reprimanded, but instead, he was being offered a chance to showcase his skills. I would be honored, sir, he stammered. The word had spread, and Arthur's life at the Oakwood Club was about to change. He was no longer just the invisible janitor. He was Arthur Pennyworth, the ping-pong player. The question was, what would he do with his newfound attention? Arthur continued to advance through the tournament bracket, his confidence growing with each victory. But his winning streak was about to be tested. In the quarterfinals, he faced a player named Emily Carter, a formidable opponent known for her aggressive style and pinpoint accuracy. Emily was a seasoned player, with years of tournament experience. She had a powerful serve, a devastating forehand, and a relentless determination. Arthur knew that he was in for a tough match. From the first serve, Emily dominated the game. Her shots were fast and precise, forcing Arthur to scramble and defend. He struggled to find his rhythm, his unorthodox style proving less effective against Emily's calculated attacks. He lost the first game quickly, the score a lopsided 11-3. Arthur felt a wave of discouragement wash over him. He was outmatched, outskilled. He considered giving up, accepting defeat. But then, he remembered all the hours he had spent practicing, all the ridicule he had endured, all the dreams he had harbored. He couldn't quit now. He had to fight. He adjusted his strategy, focusing on defense, trying to anticipate Emily's shots and counter with his own deceptive techniques. He started using more backspin, making it harder for Emily to attack. He also began to incorporate drop shots, catching her off guard with their unexpected placement. The second game was much closer, a back-and-forth battle of wills. Emily continued to pressure Arthur, but he refused to break. He dug deep, using all his skill and determination to stay in the game. He even managed to win a few points with some lucky shots, deflecting Emily's smashes with desperate blocks. But in the end, Emily proved too strong. She won the second game 11-9, putting Arthur on the brink of elimination. He needed to win the next 3 games to stay in the tournament. Arthur knew that he had to give it everything he had. He closed his eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and visualized success. He imagined himself executing perfect shots, winning crucial points, feeling the thrill of victory. He opened his eyes, his gaze focused and determined. The third game was a turning point. Arthur played with a newfound intensity, pushing himself to the limit. He anticipated Emily's shots, countered her attacks, and executed his own deceptive techniques with surprising accuracy. He won the third game 12-10, narrowly avoiding defeat. The fourth and fifth games were just as intense, a grueling test of endurance and skill. Both players fought fiercely, neither willing to give an inch. But Arthur's determination proved to be the deciding factor. He won the fourth game 11-8, and then, in a nail-biting finish, he won the fifth game 13-11, securing a hard-fought victory. He had done it. He had overcome his toughest opponent yet, proving that even a middle-aged janitor with an unorthodox style could compete with the best. He had dug deep, used all his practice, and emerged victorious. He was one step closer to his dream. Buoyed by his victory over Emily, Arthur entered the semifinals with renewed confidence. He dispatched his opponent with relative ease, his unorthodox style continuing to baffle and frustrate his rivals. He was now one step away from the regional championship, one step away from qualifying for the national tournament. The regional finals were held the following weekend, and the atmosphere at the community center was electric. A large crowd had gathered to watch, drawn in by the Cinderella story of the middle-aged janitor who had taken the amateur ping-pong world by storm. Maria and David were there, too, cheering him on with genuine enthusiasm. Even Mr. Harrison had come to show his support. Arthur's opponent in the finals was a young phenom named Ethan, a rising star in the local ping-pong scene. Ethan was known for his lightning-fast reflexes, his powerful serves, and his unwavering confidence. He was considered the favorite to win the tournament, and he carried himself with an air of invincibility. Ethan was everything Arthur was not, young, athletic, and brimming with self-assurance. He had sponsors, coaches, and a whole team of supporters behind him. Arthur was just a janitor with a worn-out paddle and a dream. The match began, and Ethan immediately took control, unleashing a barrage of aggressive shots that overwhelmed Arthur. He lost the first game quickly, feeling the weight of Ethan's power and precision. The crowd seemed to sense that the Cinderella story was about to end. But Arthur refused to be intimidated. He had come too far to give up now. He adjusted his strategy, focusing on defense and exploiting Ethan's overconfidence. He started using more drop shots and backspin, disrupting Ethan's rhythm and forcing him to make mistakes. The second game was a back-and-forth battle, with both players trading points. Arthur managed to stay close, capitalizing on Ethan's errors and surprising him with his unorthodox techniques. He won the second game 11-9, evening the score. The momentum shifted, and Arthur began to gain confidence. He played with a newfound intensity, pushing himself to the limit. He anticipated Ethan's shots, countered his attacks, and executed his own deceptive techniques with surprising accuracy. He won the third game 11-7, taking the lead. Ethan, visibly frustrated, tried to regain control, but Arthur refused to let him. He continued to play with unwavering determination, forcing Ethan to make mistakes and capitalizing on his vulnerabilities. He won the fourth game 11-8, securing a stunning victory and claiming the regional championship. The crowd erupted in applause, cheering for the underdog who had defied all expectations. Arthur had done it. He had reached the finals, faced a formidable opponent, and emerged victorious. He was going to the national championship. His dream was becoming a reality. With the national championship looming, Arthur knew he had to step up his training. Despite his newfound fame, he continued to practice in secret, late at night, at the Oakwood Club. The memory of Maria and David's laughter still lingered, and he preferred the solitude and quiet of the empty building. However, something had changed. He no longer felt like he was sneaking around, ashamed of his passion. He was now a regional champion, a legitimate ping-pong player. He carried himself with a newfound confidence, a quiet pride in his accomplishments. Mr. Harrison, impressed by Arthur's dedication and skill, had given him permission to use the championship room whenever it was available. He even provided Arthur with a new set of ping-pong balls, a significant upgrade from the cracked and dented ones he had been using. Arthur intensified his training regimen, focusing on his weaknesses and honing his strengths. He worked on his serve, trying to add more spin and deception. He practiced his footwork, striving for greater speed and agility. He studied videos of professional ping-pong players, analyzing their techniques and strategies. He also began experimenting with different paddle grips. He had always used a modified penhold grip, which he had developed through years of trial and error. But he wondered if there was a better grip, one that would give him more power and control. He tried the shake-hand grip, the most common grip among professional players. But it felt awkward and unnatural in his hand. He experimented with different variations, adjusting his hand position and finger placement. He spent hours practicing with each grip, trying to find one that felt comfortable and effective. He recorded himself playing, analyzing his technique and identifying areas for improvement. It was a challenging and frustrating process. He often felt like he was taking a step backward, losing the skills he had worked so hard to develop. But he persevered, driven by his unwavering determination to succeed. Slowly but surely, he began to adapt to the new grips. He discovered that the shakehand grip gave him more power on his forehand shots, but it also made his backhand weaker. He realized that he needed to find a balance, a way to combine the strengths of both grips. He developed a hybrid grip, a combination of the penhold and shakehand grips. It was an unorthodox grip, unlike anything he had ever seen before. But it felt right in his hand, giving him the power and control he needed to compete at the national level. He knew that he was taking a risk, changing his grip so close to the tournament. But he believed that it was necessary if he wanted to have any chance of winning. He was willing to do whatever it took to achieve his dream. The national championship was within his grasp, and he wasn't going to let it slip away. The national championship was held in a massive convention center, a far cry from the small, familiar community center where Arthur had started his journey. As he walked through the entrance, he was immediately overwhelmed by the scale of the competition. Hundreds of players, from all over the country, were warming up, their faces focused and determined. The air buzzed with energy, a palpable sense of intensity and ambition. The sounds of ping-pong balls colliding echoed throughout the hall, a constant reminder of the skill and dedication required to compete at this level. Arthur felt a wave of self-doubt wash over him. He was just a janitor from a small town, with a worn-out paddle and an unorthodox grip. He didn't belong here. He was an outsider, an imposter. He looked around at the other players, their sleek athletic gear, their expensive paddles, their entourage of coaches and trainers. They looked like professionals, serious athletes who had dedicated their lives to the sport. He felt like he was in a different world, a world he didn't understand. He saw young players, barely out of their teens, practicing complex serves and lightning-fast smashes. He saw older players, seasoned veterans with years of experience, strategizing and analyzing their opponents. He saw players of all shapes and sizes, all backgrounds and ethnicities, united by their passion for the game. He tried to find a familiar face, someone to connect with, but he was surrounded by strangers. He felt alone, isolated, overwhelmed. He longed for the comfort and familiarity of the Oakwood Club, the quiet solitude of his late-night practices. He found a small, empty corner and sat down, clutching his trusty paddle. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and tried to calm his nerves. He reminded himself of all the hard work he had put in, all the obstacles he had overcome. He had come this far, and he wasn't going to let fear and self-doubt derail him now. He opened his eyes, his gaze focused and determined. He may have been an outsider, but he was also a competitor. He had a dream, and he wasn't going to let anyone stand in his way. He stood up, adjusted his grip on his paddle, and walked towards the tournament tables, ready to face the challenge. The national championship had begun. Arthur's first match at the national championship was against a highly ranked player named Justin Lee, a former college champion known for his aggressive serves and powerful forehand. The odds were stacked against Arthur, but he refused to be intimidated. He focused on his game, using his unorthodox style and hybrid grip to disrupt Justin's rhythm and force him to make mistakes. To everyone's surprise, Arthur won the match in straight sets. The crowd, initially dismissive of the middle-aged janitor with the worn-out paddle, began to take notice. They were intrigued by his unusual techniques, his unwavering determination, and his quiet humility. Arthur continued to defy expectations, winning match after match against younger, stronger, and more experienced opponents. He defeated a rising star from California, a seasoned veteran from New York, and a former Olympian from Europe. His Cinderella story was capturing the attention of the ping-pong world. Word of the janitor who could play spread quickly, and the media began to take notice. Reporters from local newspapers and television stations flocked to the convention center, eager to interview Arthur and tell his story. He became an overnight sensation, a symbol of hope and inspiration for ordinary people everywhere. His story was featured on national news programs, in sports magazines, and on popular websites. He was interviewed on talk shows and invited to appear at charity events. The media attention was overwhelming, but Arthur remained humble and grounded. He didn't let the fame go to his head. He continued to focus on his game, practicing hard and preparing for his next match. He used his newfound platform to promote the sport of ping pong, encouraging people of all ages and backgrounds to pick up a paddle and give it a try. He spoke about the importance of hard work, dedication, and perseverance, inspiring others to pursue their dreams, no matter how impossible they may seem. He even received a call from a major sporting goods company, offering him an endorsement deal. He politely declined, explaining that he wasn't interested in making money from the sport. He just wanted to play and inspire others. As Arthur continued to advance through the tournament bracket, the crowd grew larger and more enthusiastic. They cheered for him, chanted his name, and waved signs of support. He was no longer just the janitor who could play. He was Arthur Pennyworth, the national hero. The national championship was his stage, and he was ready to put on a show. The championship match was set. Arthur Pennyworth, the middle-aged janitor from the Oakwood Ping Pong Club, would face Michael Chen, the top-ranked amateur player in the country. Michael was a prodigy, a phenom, a future Olympian. He had been playing ping pong since he was a child, and he had dedicated his life to the sport. He was the favorite to win the national championship, and he carried himself with the confidence of a champion. The arena was packed, the atmosphere electric. The crowd was a mix of seasoned ping pong enthusiasts, curious onlookers, and Arthur's newfound fans. Maria and David were there, cheering him on with all their might. Mr. Harrison was there, too, beaming with pride. The media was out in full force, cameras flashing, reporters scribbling notes. Arthur's story had captivated the nation, and everyone was eager to see if he could pull off one last upset. As Arthur walked onto the court, the crowd erupted in applause. He felt a surge of energy, a wave of support that washed over him. He smiled, waved to the crowd, and took his position at the table. The match began, and Michael immediately asserted his dominance. His serves were fast and precise, his shots were powerful and accurate. Arthur struggled to keep up, his unorthodox style proving less effective against Michael's superior skill. He lost the first game quickly, the score a lopsided 11-4. Arthur knew that he had to adjust his strategy if he wanted to have any chance of winning. He focused on defense, trying to anticipate Michael's shots and counter with his own deceptive techniques. He used more backspin, making it harder for Michael to attack. He also began to incorporate drop shots, catching Michael off guard with their unexpected placement. The second game was much closer, a back-and-forth battle of wills. Michael continued to pressure Arthur, but he refused to break. He dug deep, using all his skill and determination to stay in the game. He even managed to win a few points with some lucky shots, deflecting Michael's smashes with desperate blocks. He won the second game 12-10, evening the score. The momentum shifted, and Arthur began to gain confidence. He played with a newfound intensity, pushing himself to the limit. He anticipated Michael's shots, countered his attacks, and executed his own deceptive techniques with surprising accuracy. He won the third game 11-8, taking the lead. Michael, visibly frustrated, tried to regain control, but Arthur refused to let him. The fourth game was a nail-biter, with both players trading points. The score was tied at 10-10, and the tension in the arena was palpable. The next point would determine the outcome of the game. Michael served, a powerful shot that spun wildly. Arthur anticipated the serve, adjusted his grip, and returned the ball with a perfectly placed drop shot. Michael lunged for the ball, but he was too late. The ball hit the table, and Arthur won the point. He won the fourth game 12-10, putting him one game away from the national championship. The crowd was on its feet, cheering wildly. Arthur closed his eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and prepared for the final game of his life. The final game began, and the tension in the arena was almost unbearable. Arthur and Michael traded points, neither willing to give an inch. The score was tied at 5-5, then 7-7, then 9-9. The crowd was on its feet, cheering and chanting, their voices echoing through the hall. Arthur knew that he had to stay focused, to stay calm, to stay in the moment. He couldn't let the pressure get to him. He had come too far to let it all slip away now. Michael served, a powerful shot that spun wildly. Arthur anticipated the serve, adjusted his grip, and returned the ball with a perfectly placed backspin shot. Michael lunged for the ball, but he was too late. The ball hit the table, and Arthur won the point, putting him up 10-9. He was 1 point away from the national championship. The crowd roared, their voices deafening. Arthur closed his eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and visualized success. He imagined himself holding the trophy, feeling the joy of victory, inspiring others to pursue their dreams. He opened his eyes, his gaze focused and determined. He was ready. It was Arthur's serve. He bounced the ball a few times, focusing all of his energy and concentration. He tossed the ball into the air and unleashed his serve, a deceptive shot that spun in an unexpected direction. Michael was caught off guard. He swung wildly, missing the ball completely. The ball hit the table, bounced once, and then fell to the floor. Arthur Pennyworth had done it. He had won the national championship. The crowd erupted in applause, a thunderous ovation that shook the very foundations of the building. People were jumping up and down, cheering and screaming, waving signs and banners. Confetti rained down from the ceiling, filling the air with color and excitement. Arthur stood there, stunned, overwhelmed by the outpouring of emotion. He couldn't believe it. He had actually won. The middle-aged janitor from the Oakwood Ping Pong Club had defied all expectations and become a national champion. He shook Michael's hand, congratulating him on a hard-fought match. Then, he raised his arms to the crowd, acknowledging their support and appreciation. He was handed the trophy, a gleaming silver cup that symbolized his victory. He held it high above his head, feeling the weight of his accomplishment, the culmination of years of hard work, dedication, and perseverance. He had proven that anything is possible if you believe in yourself and never give up on your dreams. He had shown the world that even a janitor can be a champion. The impossible had become reality. Arthur Pennyworth was a national hero. Arthur's victory was more than just a personal triumph, it was a cultural phenomenon. His story resonated with people from all walks of life, inspiring them to believe in the power of dreams and the importance of perseverance. The media frenzy surrounding Arthur reached new heights. He was interviewed on every major television network, his humble demeanor and inspiring message captivating audiences across the country. He shared his story, from his quiet life as a janitor to his secret passion for ping pong, to his improbable journey to the national championship. He talked about the challenges he had faced, the ridicule he had endured, and the self-doubt he had overcome. He spoke about the importance of hard work, dedication, and visualization. He emphasized the power of believing in yourself, even when others don't. The ping-pong community embraced Arthur as one of their own, celebrating his victory and recognizing his contribution to the sport. He was invited to speak at ping-pong clinics and tournaments, sharing his knowledge and inspiring young players to pursue their dreams. He received letters and emails from people all over the world, thanking him for his inspiration and sharing their own stories of overcoming adversity. He became a symbol of hope, a reminder that anything is possible if you set your mind to it. Even Maria and David, the kitchen staff members who had initially mocked Arthur, reached out to apologize. They told him how inspired they were by his story and how proud they were to have witnessed his journey. Arthur forgave them without hesitation, recognizing that their ridicule had ultimately fueled his determination. Mr. Harrison, the club manager, was overjoyed by Arthur's success. He saw it as a validation of his own belief in the importance of hard work and dedication. He proudly displayed Arthur's trophy in the club's trophy case, a testament to the power of dreams and the importance of supporting those who dare to pursue them. Arthur's victory brought a renewed sense of pride and excitement to the Oakwood Ping Pong Club. The members were eager to learn from him, to hear his stories, to witness his skills. He was no longer just the janitor, he was Arthur Pennyworth, the national champion, the inspiration, the legend. His recognition was complete, his redemption absolute. He had proven that even a quiet, unassuming janitor could achieve greatness, and in doing so, he had changed the lives of countless others. The return to the Oakwood Ping Pong Club was unlike anything Arthur could have ever imagined. He wasn't just the janitor coming back to work, he was Arthur Pennyworth, the national champion, returning home. As he walked through the front doors, he was greeted by a scene of joyous celebration. The club had been transformed into a festive wonderland, decorated with banners, balloons, and congratulatory signs. The members, many of whom had once barely acknowledged his existence, were there to welcome him with open arms. Mr. Harrison, beaming with pride, stepped forward to greet him. "Arthur, my boy," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "Welcome home. You have made us all so proud." Maria and David rushed forward, their faces beaming with excitement. "Arthur, you were amazing!" Maria exclaimed. "We knew you could do it," David added. The members of the club, young and old, skilled and unskilled, lined up to shake Arthur's hand and congratulate him on his victory. They were eager to hear his stories, to learn from his experiences, to witness his skills firsthand. Arthur was overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support. He had spent so many years feeling invisible, overlooked, and underappreciated. Now, he was the center of attention, the object of admiration, the pride of the Oakwood Ping Pong Club. He walked through the club, taking it all in, marveling at the transformation. He noticed that his trophy had been prominently displayed in the trophy case, alongside the trophies of the club's legendary players. He smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. He stopped in the championship room, the room where he had spent so many hours practicing in secret, honing his skills with discarded paddles. He looked around, remembering the ridicule he had endured, the self-doubt he had overcome, and the dreams he had dared to pursue. He picked up a paddle, feeling the familiar weight in his hand. He closed his eyes for a moment, visualizing himself playing, feeling the thrill of the game, the joy of victory. He opened his eyes, his gaze focused and determined. He was no longer just a janitor, he was a national champion, a role model, an inspiration. He had a responsibility to share his knowledge, to inspire others, to give back to the sport that had given him so much. He knew that his life had changed forever. He was no longer invisible, he was a legend. But he also knew that he was still the same Arthur Pennyworth, the quiet, unassuming janitor who loved to play ping pong. He would never forget where he came from, and he would always be grateful for the opportunities he had been given. He was home, and he was ready to embrace his new role. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat, a signal for silence. The crowd quieted, their eyes focused on Arthur, their faces filled with anticipation. "Arthur," Mr. Harrison began, his voice filled with emotion, "on behalf of the entire Oakwood Ping Pong Club, I want to express our deepest admiration and gratitude. You have inspired us all with your hard work, your dedication, and your unwavering belief in yourself." He paused, his eyes glistening with tears. "You have shown us that anything is possible if you dare to dream and are willing to work for it. You are a true champion, Arthur, and we are so proud to call you one of our own." Mr. Harrison raised his hands, signaling the crowd to join him. "Let's give Arthur Pennyworth the welcome he deserves," he exclaimed. And then, it happened. The entire Oakwood Ping Pong Club, every member, every employee, every guest, rose to their feet and began to applaud. The applause started slowly, tentatively, but it quickly grew in intensity, building into a thunderous ovation that echoed through the hall. Arthur stood there, stunned, overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support. He looked around at the faces in the crowd, recognizing some, not recognizing others. He saw smiles, tears, and expressions of genuine admiration. He saw Maria and David, clapping enthusiastically, their faces filled with pride. He saw Mr. Harrison, beaming with joy, leading the applause. He saw the club members, many of whom had once mocked him, now cheering him on with all their might. He realized that this was more than just a standing ovation, it was a symbol of acceptance, a gesture of forgiveness, a testament to the power of redemption. He had proven them wrong, not with words, but with actions. He had shown them that even a janitor could be a champion, and in doing so, he had earned their respect and admiration. The applause continued for what seemed like an eternity, a never-ending wave of sound that washed over Arthur, filling him with warmth and gratitude. He closed his eyes for a moment, savoring the feeling, etching the memory into his mind forever. He opened his eyes, his gaze focused and determined. He knew that his journey was far from over. He had won the national championship, but he also had a responsibility to inspire others, to give back to the sport that had given him so much. He was ready to embrace his new role, to share his knowledge, to help others achieve their dreams. The standing ovation was a beginning, not an end. His legacy was just starting to take shape. The standing ovation finally subsided, but the celebratory atmosphere lingered in the air. Arthur was surrounded by well-wishers, all eager to congratulate him and share in his joy. Mr. Harrison approached Arthur, his face beaming with pride. "Arthur," he said, his voice serious but kind, "I have something to discuss with you." He led Arthur to his office, a small, cluttered room filled with trophies, photographs, and memorabilia. He closed the door, ensuring their privacy. "Arthur," he began, "your victory has been an inspiration to us all. You have shown us that anything is possible if you dare to dream and are willing to work for it." He paused, his gaze fixed on Arthur's face. "We have been discussing your future here at the Oakwood Club, and we have come to a decision. We would like to offer you a job as a ping-pong coach." Arthur was stunned. He had never considered such a possibility. He had always seen himself as a janitor, a humble worker who cleaned up after others. The idea of becoming a coach, a mentor, a teacher, was both exciting and daunting. "Mr. Harrison," he stammered, I don't know what to say. I'm honored, of course, but I've never coached before. I don't know if I'm qualified." Mr. Harrison smiled. "Arthur, you have more than proven your qualifications. You have a deep understanding of the game, a passion for teaching, and a proven track record of success. You have the skills, the knowledge, and the dedication to be a great coach." He continued, "We believe that you can inspire our members, young and old, to improve their skills and achieve their goals. You can share your story, your knowledge, and your passion for the game. You can help us build a stronger, more vibrant ping-pong community here at the Oakwood Club." He paused, his gaze intensifying. "This is a full-time position, with a competitive salary and benefits package. You would be responsible for coaching individual lessons, running group clinics, and organizing tournaments. You would have the opportunity to work with players of all skill levels, from beginners to advanced competitors. He extended his hand to Arthur. Arthur, this is an opportunity for you to pursue your passion, to make a difference in the lives of others, and to build a fulfilling career. What do you say? Will you accept our offer? Arthur looked at Mr. Harrison, his heart filled with gratitude and excitement. He had come so far, overcome so many obstacles, and achieved so many dreams. Now, he was being offered a chance to pursue his passion, to make a difference, to inspire others. He smiled, his eyes glistening with tears. Mr. Harrison, he said, his voice filled with emotion, I accept. I would be honored to become a ping-pong coach at the Oakwood Club. Mr. Harrison smiled, relieved and pleased. Excellent, Arthur. I knew you would make the right decision. Welcome to the team. He shook Arthur's hand warmly, sealing the deal. Arthur Pennyworth was no longer just a janitor, he was a ping-pong coach, ready to embark on a new chapter in his life. Arthur embraced his new role as a ping-pong coach with the same passion and dedication that he had brought to his training. He poured his heart and soul into his work, eager to share his knowledge, his skills, and his inspiring story with others. He quickly became a popular and respected coach, attracting students of all ages and skill levels. He had a knack for identifying each player's strengths and weaknesses, and he developed personalized training programs to help them improve their game. He taught them the fundamentals of ping-pong, the importance of footwork, grip, and stance. He shared his unorthodox techniques, his deceptive shots, and his strategic insights. He encouraged them to experiment, to take risks, and to develop their own unique style. But more importantly, he inspired them to believe in themselves, to pursue their dreams, and to never give up, no matter how impossible they may seem. He shared his own story of overcoming adversity, of facing ridicule, and of achieving the impossible. He reminded them that it doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is, or what others think of you. What matters is your passion, your dedication, and your willingness to work hard. He never forgot where he came from. He continued to live in his small apartment, to shop at the local grocery store, and to take the bus to work. He remained humble, grounded, and grateful for the opportunities he had been given. He often visited the janitorial staff at the Oakwood Club, offering them words of encouragement and sharing his story. He reminded them that their work was important, that they were valued members of the club, and that they, too, could achieve their dreams. He became a mentor to many young players, guiding them through the challenges of competition and helping them to develop their character. He taught them the importance of sportsmanship, of respect for their opponents, and of giving back to the community. He organized tournaments and clinics for underprivileged children, providing them with access to the sport of ping-pong and inspiring them to pursue their goals. He used his platform to promote the importance of education, of hard work, and of giving back to others. Arthur's legacy extended far beyond the ping-pong court. He became a symbol of hope, an inspiration to ordinary people everywhere, a testament to the power of dreams and the importance of perseverance. He had proven that anything is possible if you believe in yourself and never forget where you came from. He was Arthur Pennyworth, the janitor who became a champion, and his story would continue to inspire generations to come. Years passed, and Arthur Pennyworth remained a beloved figure at the Oakwood Ping Pong Club. He coached hundreds of players, young and old, skilled and unskilled, always sharing his wisdom, his passion, and his inspiring story. He never forgot his humble beginnings, and he always made time for those who were struggling, those who felt lost or discouraged. He reminded them that anything is possible if you believe in yourself and never give up on your dreams. One afternoon, as the sun streamed through the windows of the championship room, Arthur was practicing with a young aspiring player named Maria Rodriguez. Maria was a talented but shy girl who had been struggling with her confidence. Arthur had taken Maria under his wing, recognizing her potential and seeing a bit of himself in her. He had taught her the fundamentals of ping-pong, the importance of footwork, grip, and stance. He had shared his unorthodox techniques, his deceptive shots, and his strategic insights. But more importantly, he had inspired her to believe in herself, to overcome her fears, and to pursue her dreams. He had shared his own story of overcoming adversity, of facing ridicule, and of achieving the impossible. "Okay, Maria," Arthur said, his voice gentle but firm, "let's work on your serve. Remember, it's all about the spin. You have to generate enough spin to make it difficult for your opponent to return the ball." He demonstrated the serve, tossing the ball into the air and unleashing a deceptive shot that spun wildly. Maria watched intently, her eyes focused on Arthur's movements. "Now, you try," Arthur said, handing Maria the paddle. Maria took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. She bounced the ball a few times, focusing all of her energy and concentration. She tossed the ball into the air and unleashed her serve, a decent shot, but lacking the spin and deception of Arthur's serve. "Not bad, Maria," Arthur said, "but you need to generate more spin. Try using your wrist more. Flick it as you hit the ball." Maria